So something we talk about often in Impact Communications is the PESO model. So that stands for paid, earned, shared, and owned. And so we like to flip it on its head and start with owned, which is your website and all that content that you really own. Next is earned, also known as PR or credibility marketing. And so that is your, when you get featured in different publications. Next is shared, also known as social media. You can push that out and reach a new audience there. And then finally, paid is another way to work into your strategy and reach a new target audience there. So if you dissect your PESO model, on the horizontal, we have control. So with your owned content, you have a much higher level of control, but you don't reach as many people. But with paid, obviously you have a little bit less control, but you can reach a much wider audience if you're willing to pay more. Shared social allows you to have a higher amount of reach by pushing that out through social media channels. And that earned content, that PR and credibility marketing, really allows you to reach a larger audience by being featured in those third-party publications. And so really mixing in all of the different elements of the PESO model allows you to reach a new space and start growing and reaching a new audience. So another way we like to look at this is with spiderweb marketing, which we like to think of your online presence as a digital spiderweb in the cloud. And so your website should be the hub of your entire online presence, and then all of the different online assets you have and different places you're featured across the web should be linking back to one another. Backlinking, cross-linking is a really important component of SEO. So your social media profiles, all the third-party publications you're featured in, that PR and earned and credibility marketing. If you have an ebook, or let's say you're part of industry associations or organizations, having those profiles staked out and set up. Maybe you have a podcast or a video presence. All of those things are really important for sticking out, building out as many online assets and profiles as you have access to, making sure those look good, giving people as many places to find you online as possible, and then ultimately linking back to all of them. And not only do a lot of these things show up high in search results themselves, but also when you utilize that cross-linking and backlinking strategy, it lifts up your entire online presence as a whole. And so that's where you really start to see a lift in online presence and make yourself easy to be found online and bring in new leads to the top of your marketing funnel. And so looking at this through the marketing funnel, really all of these online assets are just meant to make it easier for you to be found online. And after you are found, you want to feed them down through your marketing funnel. So pass that initial test of trust and credibility, provide value through the educational content that you're creating, whether that be on your blog, podcast, video, whatever it may be. Stand out as the better choice amongst your competitors, and then keep in touch to reinforce your value. Drip market to them, build trust and authority and credibility, and over time, build that share of mind, stay top of mind, and then ultimately convert your prospects into clients. And then the base of your marketing funnel should be providing a great client experience and creating advocates for your business that ultimately leads to referrals and feeds back into the top of your marketing funnel. So another way to look at the marketing funnel here, more generic image here, but PR and all the different elements of the PESO model, social, earned, owned, paid, those are all just ways to generate leads and bring people into the top of your funnel. And as you feed them down, engage them with that content you're creating on your website, your blog, your podcast, whatever it may be. And then again, follow up with them, nurture those leads, drip market to them via email, stay top of mind, build that trust and credibility, and then ultimately convert them into clients and create those advocates that feeds back into the top of the funnel. And I do want to also look at the 4 C's of content marketing. We'll dig a little bit more into content here in a moment. But on the vertical scale, we see value and credibility, and then the horizontal scale, how easy it is to create this content, going up to how hard it is to create the content. So the easiest kind of content to create is what we call canned content. That's licensed content you pay to use. After that is curated content, a little bit harder to curate, rather than just pay for canned content, because you have to go out and find that content that you think is going to resonate with your audience. And then here's where we really start to see a lot more value, but it's a lot harder to create, and that's custom content. That's unique content that you create, really positions you as an expert and a thought leader on the topics that you want to be known for, but obviously a lot harder to create because it's custom content made from scratch. But there's also a ton of value there from an SEO standpoint when you can create truly custom content that only lives on your website or within your online profiles. Next is celebrity, or what we also call credibility content, or PR, or earned media. All similar. That's when you feature your thought leadership in those third-party publications, whether that's national, local, industry publications, where you're quoted as an expert and you're featured as a thought leader within those publications. And so that's harder to create because you're at the mercy of having your content picked up by a credible outlet or publication, but it provides so much value and credibility. And so really with canned and curated, you are able to show your character and values based on the content that you choose to pay for or curate. With custom, you are able to show your character and values, but also position yourself as an expert and thought leader on the topics that you want to be known for. It also really helps with SEO, like I mentioned. And then with credibility content, you also kind of get that halo effect. And that's why we have it as celebrity. It positions you as a celebrity or at least a thought leader within your industry or your community. And that's where you really start to see that halo effect. And so we like to utilize a mix of all different types of content. And obviously, advisors have a lot of different strains and pull for their time. So you got to pick and choose your battles sometimes. But utilizing a good mix of content and finding what works for you and how you want to create and push out that content. But you really do want to create content in some way and drip that out through all of your online assets to really continue to follow up and provide value to all of your prospects and current clients as well. And then just one last note here is that canned and curated content can be questionable or even potentially hurtful for SEO if it's not customized, because Google does ding you if they see the exact same content on multiple websites or multiple places across the web, if it's canned content that other advisors might also be using. So even if you are going to use canned content, try and customize that a little bit and change it up. I'm going to pass it over to Christina here. She's going to talk a little bit more about content and repurposing content.
That's my favorite. Okay, let me start off by asking, who here is using social media to market themselves? No, Sean, I'm not going to pick you. What platforms are you using?
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn.
Perfect. And what's your target demographic? Age range?
It's mostly younger people.
Younger people?
Me on there, yeah, 60 and under.
Okay, that's younger, 60 and under.
Our business is.
I'm just messing with you. Okay, wonderful. Right, so one of the things that I see quite often is people really struggle to create custom content, what Johnny was just talking about. Do you create custom content for yourself? I'm putting you on the spot. Perfect. Do you find it to be a struggle?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Who here has spoken at a conference before, or they have a podcast or a blog? Anybody? Wonderful. All of that stuff is fair game for content. And that's where we're going to jump into repurposing content. Repurposing content is the best thing that you can do. I can take this presentation today that Johnny and I are doing, and I can break this up into probably about 10 different videos. That's 10 pieces of content that I'm going to be able to share on my social media. I then could take the transcription, right, if I wanted to get the transcription of what we're saying, and I can turn that into a blog post. That's a whole other piece of content. You can do the same thing with podcasts as well, right? So one of the things that, again, I see is people really struggling, but you really have to use your resources and repurpose. And so, can I switch with you?
Yeah.
It's like, I can't see that. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So the beauty of that is that you're going to be able to save a lot of time. Everybody that I talk to, right? And raise your hand. Time is probably not on your side. Do you guys find that it's really time consuming to create that content? Yes, exactly. That's why you want to use platforms like, one of the ones I use is GetMunch, right? GetMunch is a video platform that I could plug in right here, this presentation today, and it's going to splice that video up into almost 30 different clips for me, right? At that point, then I have a bank of content that I can use moving forward. I'm gonna just click. GetMunch. I should have put it on here. It's Get, G-E-T, Munch. Like I said, you can do a podcast. So I would highly suggest if people have podcasts, make sure you're recording them. Do them on Zoom, or there's like Riverside. There's tons of different platforms, but record them because you can use the audio, obviously, for the podcast, but then in addition, you can use a video for your social platforms. You can also put this stuff on your website, right? The key when it comes to repurposing is to create that bank and make your life easier. Use the resources that you have.
Can I chime in on content repurposing really quick?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
if you're writing a blog, you can take that transcript, you can record it as a video, put it out as a vlog. You know, if you are doing a podcast, you can also film that, put it out as a video form as well. If you have a blog, you can cut that up into multiple sections or pieces for social media graphics. So finding ways to repurpose that content just gives you a lot more longevity with the content you're creating, that custom content that takes a long time to create, and you're giving people choice in how, you know, they want to digest your content, which some people like to read, some people like to listen, exactly. Some people like to watch. So, and you know, with all this type of content, we're not expecting any advisor to go out and, you know, have an active blog and do a podcast and do video and webinars and write an ebook and do all of that. You need to pick and choose what works for you. If you're a good writer, if you're good on camera, and really find what works for you and then figure out a way to repurpose that.
Yeah. I find a lot of the times too, people are really nervous to get on video, but yet you would get up here and do a presentation just like we are today. Why not record that so that you can use it for content purposes? All right, I don't know. Perfect. Platform-specific strategy. So every platform is different, right? You have to treat each platform as a different entity. So with that being said, when I use LinkedIn, right, I'm going to go more in the realm of probably a lot of educational content, right? But then I might use Instagram and I might put a little spin on it. I'm a huge advocate for TikTok, which I'm going to dive into, and I know that's scary for a lot of people probably in this room, but it is beneficial. And so you want to really make sure that you're customizing each of your pieces of content per the platform that you're using. Say you're on Instagram, right? When you write a caption on Instagram, you can't put a link in that caption because it's not clickable. Right? That's something you want to really think about, because I see a lot of people making this mistake. Whereas on LinkedIn or Facebook, I can put that link and I can, you know, link out to whatever my blog or whatever it is that I'm trying to get people to, website, etc. I can't see. No. Sorry, guys. I can't see the slides. All right, leveraging the different features, right? So on LinkedIn, you might be able to do polls. Actually, Instagram just implemented this as well. You can now do polls on Instagram. Highly recommend using polls. And when I say polls on Instagram, it's polls in your actual captions. You can always do them on your stories, but that's a really good way to get people engaged, especially when you are pitching services. What I really like to do is I like to ask a question, right? Yes or no answer, get people to answer it, and then I'll message them. I'll have a conversation with them. The polls are really gonna help open up that conversation with your ideal client. So, like I said, platforms to focus on, I would say for you guys would be LinkedIn, Twitter, and surprisingly, TikTok. So we're gonna jump into that. I'm gonna go back to that slide. So I'm gonna go into TikTok. Who here is like, I would never use TikTok? Who would consider using it? I like that. I like him. I like him already. TikTok is such an up-and-coming platform, one. It is taking the whole world by storm. And what I really, really love about TikTok is it's truly SEO. It's a search engine, right? So one of the things that I really encourage people to do is if you're like, what kind of questions does my ideal client potentially have? I go into TikTok, I would type in financial advice, right? From there, it's going to give me a list of different questions that people are asking. That I really like TikTok because of the fact that it is a search engine. So here is, you guys might have seen him before, he posts a lot of content, but hey, we're doing it. This is a little case study that I pulled together and some of the metrics that we saw over the last 3 months. We really, really leaned into TikTok. And when I say we leaned into TikTok, we were posting probably 2 to 3 times a day. That might sound overwhelming, but when you have a podcast or a presentation and you can splice it up into multiple clips, 3 times a day is nothing. So these are some of the metrics that we saw. We saw over 194% increase in our followers. Our engagement went up 55%. Our likes were up 54%, and then our comments were up over 7,000, right? So we really saw big jumps from August to October. This is, right, from the August to October compared to November and February. So we saw a lot of really, really good growth over here, and it all was due to TikTok. Now, profile views is something that I highlighted. We have over 279% increase on profile views. This is a really important metric because this means people are most likely I didn't mention that. Yes, Stoy is he is an advisor. And so I know a big thing is like, especially with TikTok, like what kind of information are we gonna be able to put out there to, stay within compliance? We do it all the time. We do it all the time. There's so many topics that you guys can talk about. And oh yeah, question.
Well,
great, but were those numbers in the demographic he was looking for?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So his demographic is like the 25 to 45-year-old age range, and it's women and minority business owners. Absolutely. Yep, we hit that market. And what ended up happening, those profile views were really important because now he's averaging anywhere between 2 to 4 meetings a week, which are leads, right? And that's all coming straight from TikTok. Oh, let me go back to that quick. So some of the videos, just kind of want to, shed light on some of the things that we actually did here. Was this one right here was a podcast, right? So we did the podcast, that's a clip that we pulled. This one we did 3 things now to build wealth, right? These are the things that people in his age demographic really want to hear. When I think about advisors, as somebody who is not an advisor, a lot of the times the information that I'm getting from social media is going way over my head. And so the key is to really talk to your audience, talk to your demographic in a way that they're going to understand. And this is what his audience wants to hear, and that's why we tapped into it. All right, and then I wanted to show you guys some website traffic. So again, another comparison. And as you'll see, from August to October, pretty low metrics, right? We're seeing just a few, 4,000 direct. Direct is either somebody going to your website directly on their own, or maybe they got the link from like LinkedIn or Facebook or something like that. So the metrics are pretty low. As soon as we started to implement all the things that we did, right, between Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, we saw a big jump, especially in that direct. We got a lot of direct from there. And so his top platforms are Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. You would think LinkedIn would have been up there, but it wasn't, right? Because his demographic is on those platforms. And I think it's important to note that, again, scary, millennials and Gen Zs are becoming the adults of the world. A lot of these people are starting businesses. And so that is a missed opportunity if you don't tap into it. I know myself, I know tons of other entrepreneurs that didn't have the advice from advisors because a lot of the information goes over our head and it's targeting an older demographic. We are a demographic that needs to be targeted, but you need to talk to us in a way we're going to understand. Flipping over. This is Johnny.
Did you want to go back to your slide on authenticity on social media?
Yes, I was going to say I have to go back to that.
And I think a lot of what you're saying kind of also points to, again, just knowing who you're trying to reach and where your audience is located.
Absolutely.
And for a lot of you, that may be LinkedIn. For some of you, it may be TikTok. So obviously, you want to be active in all of those different places and have a profile that you can stake out, you can set up that shows up high in search results and allows you to be found there if people are searching for you there. But really try and find out where your audience is, ask your clients, ask their prospects where they digest their content, and that's where you want to market.
Yeah, and like I said, each platform is so different, where it's TikTok, it's not just Gen Z and millennials. There's actually a really large older demographic over there, believe it or not. But you really do. You want to think about, where does my ideal client hang out? Also, something that I see a lot, and it's, as somebody who's really heavily into the healthcare industry, I see it a lot with them too. Nobody wants to show their authenticity on social media. But at the end of the day, that's what sells. How many of you have bought into somebody you didn't like? Sean. How many of you have been told that somebody signed with you because they liked you? Right? I get that all the time. Every time I ask somebody, why'd you work with me? They're like, you're a vibe. I'm like, how do I market a vibe, right? But the important thing is because I show my personality. When you really show up as you, that's what people connect with. People connect with people. I'm not saying go out there and put all your personal information out there, but you want somebody to connect with you. I'm sure all of you do this. I know I do. Anytime I go into a discovery call, I find that one commonality. Like, what can I relate with them on, right? Social media is the same way, and showcasing your personality is going to show that. Power of video. How many of you watch videos if you are on social media? Would you say video is, you watch more video than reading? Like reading content? I go in holes all the time of video, right? A lot of people do that. We all do that, right? And so that's why it's really important to also utilize video. On LinkedIn, I find that for me personally, like just a pretty picture of me in a caption does really well. So you want to test it out. But whereas on Instagram, I'm like, I do strictly video and nothing else. So the video is really powerful and it goes a long way. And that's how people are really going to see your personality. Do you want to add anything about personal marketing?
Let's go. I want to show those slides at the end with, the power of pro-personal marketing. So that's that mix of professional and personal marketing, and showing authenticity on social media, really lifting the veil to show behind the scenes into the character and culture of your firm, And this has always been important on social media and throughout your online presence, but I feel like it's become even more important after the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, when people were really craving human interaction. And like you said, Christina, people want to work with people they like and people that they trust. And they want to get to know you as just their advisor on multiple levels as a person, someone they can go have a coffee or a beer with. So I have a couple examples here of a few firms that really utilize this pro-personal marketing method on their social media channels and throughout their online presence. So this firm, Blue Chip in Michigan, they are constantly posting team photos on social media, their team at conferences and events, volunteering in the community. They have meet the team videos, holiday greetings. Sometimes they even post pictures of team members on vacation or at a local sporting event, doing things that they love in the community. And this goes a long way, and we see way more engagement on these types of posts on social media than anything else. You still need to create that educational content on those personal finance topics and things that are going to provide value to your clients and your audience. But this kind of content goes such a long way in really expanding your reach and increasing engagement and building that connectivity between you and your clients and your prospects.
Yeah, adding on to that too, one of the things that I see a lot in, again, healthcare, it's not sexy. Financial might not be sexy, but it still comes down to connecting and the personality. And what I see a lot, especially in the healthcare field, is anytime we're showing company culture, that goes a long way on social. People absolutely love that stuff. And so, like Johnny was just saying, show the behind the scenes, show you guys in the community. It goes a long way. Absolutely do the educational content. At the end of the day, we need to provide value. We need to show people that. But when you mix this stuff in, you're going to definitely, like clockwork, see an increase in your engagement every single time.
Mm-hmm. Will you grab the clicker and click ahead one more time? And this is just one more example from a firm called Bogart Wealth in McLean, Virginia, outside of DC. And they utilize a lot of the same, team photos, holiday gatherings, volunteering in the community. They do graphics on social media when they have a new hire or a new team member someone passes their CFP exam, when there's a birthday or a work anniversary. Meet the team videos, being vulnerable also, if you do get any earned media attention, credibility, PR, really being vulnerable and sharing your personal story. People want to know that before they sign on to work with an advisor. And again, we see so much engagement in this type of content on social media, 50, 60, 100 plus engagements, likes. And they still push out tons of great educational content. It still gets good engagement, but nothing like this. And we constantly hear from their clients that this is what they love to see throughout Bogart's online presence, being a force in the community, really showing that they have a strong team culture. So whenever you can lift the veil, show behind the scenes into the character and culture of your firm and the people at your firm, including yourself, that goes such a long way. Anything else to add, Christina?
Let me just say to remember that social media specifically is for the long game, right? You're not going to see an instant ROI. One of the questions I get all the time is like, what's the ROI on this? I can't answer that, right? And I'm very honest with people about it because it is the long game. But I promise having a digital presence does make a difference. And one of the last thing I want to add is, again, that Gen Z millennial crew, us right here, we go to social media to find things. Mm-hmm. When I go to Google, if I were to type in Johnny Swift, right, his social media platforms are going to come up on that. I'm always going to go to social media as well as your website to learn more about you. Website to get the information, social media to connect with you. So remember, it is for the long game, and pushing out that content is important to connect with your ideal client.
Yeah, it's all about, staying in touch, drip marketing over time, building that trust and authority and that share of mind. And really, I saw some quote from an advisor recently that was saying something like, they when they get new clients, they ask them, how did you find me? How did you decide to work with me? It's like, well, I've been watching your social media presence for months. Yep. Didn't engage with any of your content even, but they've been watching me for months. I had no idea they even existed, and now they're a client just because I'm doing great with my online presence and social media marketing. And so that goes such a long way. Also, even if you're not really looking to grow and add new clients to your practice, it helps so much with retention, building that relationship with your clients, that personal relationship.
Yeah, and you mentioned engagement. Just because somebody doesn't like or comment on your post does not mean they're not consuming the information. And this is an industry, as well as mine, that people don't really need the help until they need the help, right? So it's not something that's always going to flip immediately. But again, that's why nurturing your audience through the social media is important. Mm-hmm. Cool. Does anybody have any questions? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Questions?
So a lot of advisors get their business through referrals, where websites feel like they're not as important because people aren't finding them via social. They're not going on Google and searching. They're just getting a name, and those clients tend to be within the right niche, within the right profile. So with that in mind, for advisors who don't think that prioritizing digital footprint is necessary because they're doing this sort of the old-fashioned way through connections, how do they need to think about this?
I mean, I would say that they need to understand that there's so many layers to the marketing funnel. Johnny went over them earlier, right? And so at least for, I don't know, I'm big into websites. I'm like, I think everybody needs a website, right? And like, I was talking about this the other day, just because you have a good website with great SEO doesn't mean, honestly, that's just one part of the funnel. So I think people they really just need to see that everything is a funnel and it all works cohesively together at the end of the day.
Yeah, and all your online assets are ultimately, making it easier for you to be found online.
Yes.
Driving traffic back to your website, and your website should be a great place to reinforce your value, provide that educational content, and ultimately convert, prospects into clients. But even if you're not really trying to be found or really increase your SEO or online presence, you know that if anyone is even referred to you in person by a contact of theirs, the first thing they're going to go do is Google you.
Yeah.
And so you want to, have any kind of online asset, any kind of profile where you can control the content and the messaging staked out, set up, filled out, have good content there, look like the real deal, look like a credible expert and thought leader. And, so even if you're not really trying to be found, they're going to find you. And you want to make sure that your online presence looks good, functions well, and you're providing value and looking like a credible expert and thought leader like you all are. So,
do you guys Google people once you, yeah, people are doing the same. I really tell people, like, think about your own habits, the things that you do, right? Are you Googling people? Are you engaging with people on social media, XYZ, right? We're not that different. We're all kind of doing the same tactics. Yeah.
For those advisors here that are using social media, I'd be curious to hear what the process is, or how hard is it to manage the SEC's marketing rule from a compliance perspective?
yeah, so I can chime in on that. We work with a lot of compliance officers and stuff like that. So for managing social media, a lot of advisors like to do it themselves. You can always outsource that. And you always want to have a social media archiving system set up, like Smarsh is one that a lot of our clients use. Just have all of your social media content archived in case there's any issues. But oftentimes we see that you don't need to put, a disclosure statement in every post or anything like that. You can put that in the static content of the page, the About section. And in terms of the new SEC marketing rule, that mostly we've seen come into play with advisors, now being able to accept testimonials and endorsements online, which is new territory. Obviously, this is for SEC registered advisors. But we've had a lot of clients wade into the waters with, trying to get Google reviews or even going on rating sites like Yelp or, utilizing testimonial comments on their website. And so there are some stipulations that you have to go through, and the SEC marketing rule is quite complex. I had to dig into it to understand it before we started recommending this to some of our clients. But you can do it compliantly and start collecting testimonials, pushing those out on your website, feeding those into graphics on social media. Just creates more good content for social media where you have those raving fans. If you're going to do social media yourself 3 times a day, it sounds daunting at first, but if you're repurposing content, it's easier than it can seem at first. And even if you start slow, just do once a week, at least just be consistent with it. And, don't go months between posts, or don't post 3 times a day and then take 2 weeks off. Even once a week, if you're posting the content you're creating there, is just be consistent and then try and repurpose that content to create even more posts and more engagement.
Yeah, I always say with consistency, consistency looks different for everybody. I could easily post 5 days a week, but if you never post and then I say, hey, go post 5 days a week, you're not going to do it. So start out with 1. I always say do that for like a month or 2. And then you add on, right, as you get more comfortable and you build out. And then, if you are, working with somebody I know most people do manage their own social, but if you don't, make sure whoever you are working with, right? If you were working with me, I would make sure that you review everything prior to ever posting. And that's my big rule of thumb. If you work with any social media strategists, social media managers, make sure you're reviewing everything before it gets posted, because, then you can really avoid that compliance issue and, catch it before it goes out there to the public. I run into the same thing with healthcare, so yeah. Yeah. Okay, you
So can we solicit Google reviews?
You can. It's a kind of a complicated process. You need to give the invitation to your entire client base so everyone has the same opportunity. And you can't pick and choose, can't cherry pick, and you can't try and ask for positive reviews. And if you do get any negative or neutral reviews, you're not supposed to hide those in any way. You got to feature all the reviews in the same way. So if you're confident in your client base that you're going to get positive reviews from most, if not all, of your clients, then it's a very worthwhile initiative. And that firm, Blue Chip in Michigan, undertook that Google review campaign and got 180 five-star reviews, and they're showing up at the top of every Google search result when someone's searching for an advisor in their area. So it's been a huge benefit to them. They're now getting cold calls from Google reviews, and it's just been fantastic. But obviously, really dig into that SEC rule.
Could you speak maybe if somebody wanted to outsource everything for you to do a budget? I know that's going to be a very broad thing, but in general, what are you looking at as far as a monthly or yearly budget?
For social specifically?
Yeah.
Or for marketing?
Somebody who's not doing it now,
Yep.
putting it on those platforms that you think gain traction.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a number. I don't mind. I was around anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000 a month. That's without paid, though. So if you were looking to do any paid spend, then obviously you would have to, include the ad spend. But I typically am sitting between 2 and 3 a month. It just depends. Like you said, it's a range, but that's kind of the average.
I've seen some studies within the industry on advisors and their marketing spend, and most big companies recommend about 3% of revenue on marketing spend throughout the year. And really, marketing is anything you do to attract or retain business. So a lot of advisors, some activities you may not think of traditional marketing or activities that we've talked about today, but I'd say about 3% of revenue is a good place to start, and that should be, going across your website, your entire online presence, your social media, your content creation, and everything all inclusive there.
Good question. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
For the Google reviews, how much does location fuel that? For instance, if we have a firm here, we have a lot of clients in California, and so how much does the location of people who are looking versus the people where the reviews are coming from?
Yeah, so obviously if anyone Googles you or your firm, you want to have that Google business profile staked out and set up properly. That shows up in the top right of any search result when people are searching for you. It allows people to see you on the map, see photos, easily see all your contact information. And then if you have those 5-star reviews listed right there, it's just a huge credibility boost. People can click in and see all these great comments from people that work with you or have worked with you. And so when people are searching for an advisor in their area and put in a specific location, if you are optimized for multiple locations in your online presence, which that comes about by working that content into your website and all of your other online assets, if you're optimized for that location, if you have Google reviews, you should be showing up high in search results in both locations.
So the location of the reviewer doesn't matter as much?
No, it's more about their search, yeah.
You're speaking to what I was about to mention, because we have a more national approach, and Google really focuses on neighborhood issues, kind of like, what city, what area, and I wondered what you would recommend for the expansion of that beyond the borders of such and such town or city.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to, obviously you still have a location, an office location, a home base, and so if people are searching there, that's going to be the easiest to show up in those search results. But having a strong online presence is going to help no matter where you're trying to reach clients. Having those Google reviews is going to help no matter where you're trying to reach clients. If people find out about you from being quoted in an article or from a podcast you're producing, or wherever they find you online, if they then go and Google your firm and they see those raving reviews and 5-star reviews, that's helping you show up higher in search results. no matter where you're located or no matter where your ideal clients are located, that's just going to help boost you up in search results and make you more credible and make people take a second look. So.
Can you touch real quickly on content on LinkedIn? What you've seen effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that, of course, educational content, but storytelling. Storytelling's huge. And I think that so many people need to lean into this more. I mean, think about a movie, right? You like movies because they have a good storyline. And so anytime we use like really effective storytelling, specifically, I mean, on all platforms, honestly, but LinkedIn as well, it goes a long way. Also, like we were saying earlier, company culture, you behind the scenes, things like that, using those images, right? The whole key is like use those images of you guys in the field with people XYZ to draw them in to actually read the caption that you have. So I see personally a lot of educational content and storytelling doing really well over on LinkedIn. I also see, I was just gonna say that video. So it's a toss up. So I work with 15 different healthcare companies and it just depends. And then I look at my own social. I can't post a video to save my life on LinkedIn. It never works. But then with one of my healthcare clients, we post videos all the time. I have an accounting firm that I work with, and they're also posting a lot of video, and it does well. So I would say test it out. Play around with it, put video up there, see what people are liking, right? I really like to do a lot of face to camera and educating in that way, right? And so that would be a really good piece of content to test out. But it truly depends on your audience. So, and when I say test, don't test it once and then you're like, oh, it didn't do anything. No. Keep testing it. I would say do that for about 3 months and then kind of make an assessment on if this is working or not.
Video plays well on every platform, and that also really ties into authenticity and pro-personal marketing because it allows people to put a face to the name and the content they're digesting. It allows them to feel like they know you before they've even met you in person. And so obviously LinkedIn's a professional platform. That's why we like to call it pro-personal marketing, mix it professional and personal. And so really mixing in all the different types of content across the 4 C's of marketing and that educational content, the more traditional financial content mixed in with that pro-personal content. You want to give people multiple different types of content and time to, digest that, different ways to digest it. So, all right, we're getting the time is up, son.
I know we got a question, but
yeah. We're happy to answer more questions in person. So, thank you for joining us.